Now we are going to work on placing dimensions so that we can begin making our elevations more meaningful. So to do that, we are still in our Annotate tab, and we are going to use either aligned or linear. It's really personal preference. I prefer aligned just because that's the first one that I go to, but since these are linear, you could also use that one. So it's very simple. All you have to do is click on the aligned one. And now to place them, I'm going to work on the ones that would be moving horizontally. You'll see that I've already completed the height and then the cabinet widths for the uppers. So now let's work on putting them at the base cabinets and the appliances. So to do that, I'm going to hover my mouse until that base cabinet is selected, and then I'm going to tab so that I can actually dimension to the wall. I'm going to click on that. And then just with dimensioning, it should be familiar from our previous studies, but I'm just going to move it until I get to the edge that I need and then drag that down. And then I just move my cursor somewhere over here and place it. Now Revit will then just continue. Just keep clicking on those edges. I'm not too concerned on overlap. We're going to go back in and fix those. So right now I'm just really giving placement for openings. If you're struggling getting the wall, you may have to zoom in, or you can tab. Okay, and then I will do an overall, making sure to get the walls, and then drag that to somewhere right there. All right, so that's really how you dimension. Now, what we have to do is make our dimensions look a little bit nicer so that they're not completely overlapping. Now, the first thing that you will need to do is to type in units. And I am just typing that in my keyboard, and then project units appear. Under discipline, go ahead and change that to common. And then for length, I'm going to click on my format and then make sure that suppress 0 feet is selected and hit OK and OK. This way, when we are just dealing with inches, we don't have a 0 out in front of us that starts getting in the way. So for the 2 7/8, I am going to hover my mouse until I see this middle grip. And then when I move that, I have a leader that appears. So I can either move it up like this, or I can move it more over in this direction since I have more space with the leader. So I am just going to move that around until it's something like that. And now in this one, I don't really have the luxury of moving it all the way over here with the leader. That kind of starts getting confusing with knowing which of these dimensions matter and where they should be placed. So instead, I'm just going to drag it somewhere in the center of this dimension line. And then I'm going to go up to my little green panel. It's also in properties, and I'm just going to uncheck leader. So it looks something like this. And so for consistency, I'm actually going to do the same thing on this side and just have it be somewhere in the middle like that. And that really is how you put in dimensions. So before we move on to the next video with dimensioning, you should remember how to do this. And if you remember back to your drafting of all the places that we dimension, so we have the countertop to the bottom of the cabinet and the cabinet itself. I did not give a 4-inch backsplash because I'm going to note that instead, which will be in the next video. then always give yourself an overall height and an overall width. Notice for the uppers that I just have the dimensions at the top and I do not need an overall. And then I will go back in and begin putting my notes with leaders along this edge.